Hi everyone. Well, I'm going to talk today. Well, it carries on in a sense from what I was talking about before, about how we speak to our parents, how we speak, to people we like, but then it goes a bit more serious. I'm talking about respect. Now, before, when I was talking about whether we swear in public, whether we swear in public or not, or whether, I forget the word I use now, but, whether we blaspheme. And I suddenly began to think about it afterwards, as I always do. And I realised that if you respect somebody, I respected my mother, and there is no way, as she said, you have a language for home and a language for outside, and there is no way I would have done it inside. I loved her too much. I respected her too much. And that is what's missing, is respect for one another. And it leads on to something else which is much more serious. Jules today on the Blue Bus, he asked us to do a video for people who had recovered from an abusive relationship. Now what he was really talking about was husband and wife. A woman who had recovered. Now no, you're okay, my husband has never abused me. Unless you call ignoring me a few times. No, joking, but this is no joking matter. He has never ever abused me. And neither has my daughter. But I know of a case where it is not husband and wife related, where it is a child who has abused her mother. Now, I know of a case of someone who I love passionately. And her daughter has been anorexic for about the past 5 years. And yes, that is serious. My friends who have anorexia, you know what I'm talking about. You know how serious that is. And you know how angry you can get. And that is the excuse that we used when this daughter of this woman who I love passionately started abusing her. She started off by having a tantrum. Well, what child doesn't have a tantrum? So we let it go. This child then started attacking this woman. And even then you think, well, what person hasn't lost their temper? I used to lose my temper at monthly times all those years ago. And I know what it's like to want to hit everybody in sight. So once again, in this situation, you think, well, maybe, this is what can happen. So once again, the child is let off. The child then gets to 18. And by God's grace, she does. Because how she has managed to live that long is a miracle in itself. But what does she do to repay that miracle? She continues to abuse the mother. She actually steals from the mother. She takes her precious belongings down to a charity shop, and the mother has to go by the charity shop window and see her own belongings in the window. This is stealing. When the child is asked about it, she lies. She is a liar. This child successfully goes around the world. This child being on death's door, but yet still has the courage and the power. But then she comes home. And once again, after one day of being at home, abuses her mother. Her mother finally picks up courage to put the child outside of the front door, which is a task in itself. This child is now 18, exceedingly thin, but somehow has a strength which sometimes we call superhuman. She was managed to put outside the house. She manages to break every window in the house through screaming and shouting. She manages to break down the door. The police are called. The neighbours call the police. She gets away. The parent is told, you ring me up when she comes back, because if you don't, we will still arrest her. At long last, you see hope in the situation. The child comes back. The neighbour rings up the police. The police come. They arrest her. And at long last, the mother breathes a sigh of relief. But it doesn't last, because the police let her off with a caution. This is a caution. If it was somebody else, if it was not a family member which was trying to break into another person's home they would be arrested and charged. But because it's a family member, and that family member is a sweet talking 18-year-old, she sweet talks her way out of it. She gets back to the home and the mother is terrified, and the child gets back into the house. In the middle of the night, the child is crying because she has binged on fruit. Now all of my dear anorexic friends, my lovely, lovely anorexic friends, some which have tried to help me, I'm sorry I haven't got back to you. I am so sorry, because you helped me so much. But that's what it was, you helped me. That person would not take the help or advice because she is afraid. So the child is crying in the night. And normally the mother goes in and caresses the child's tummy, just like you would a baby, to make her feel better. As my anorexic friends will tell you, it hurts when you binge. But no, she caresses her feet instead. The day after, the child steals again, and the abuse continues. My friends, Jules, I know that as a young boy, you gave your parents grief. My darling boy, all children give their parents grief. My children have given me grief. Even that precious angel in there, at some point has given me grief. Because that's what children do. They give their parents grief. But they respect their parents. And once they've had their paddy, once they've said, excuse me, I want independence, they then turn around to their parents and they say, Mum, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I went too far. I'm sorry for that one moment I forgot that you were Mum. Or I'm sorry for that one moment I forgot that you were Dad. But this child is abusing her mother, and her mother is terrified. So I ask all of you out there, you know I pray. I ask all of you out there to pray for this situation. For a long time, I have never said a word. Out of respect to the person, because the mother is so terrified that she felt that if anybody knew, the child would react. Well, I'm telling her, not that she probably sees this, but if she does, I don't care. It's got to stop. Our Lord made a balance on this earth. Mother, father, child. It was there for a reason. It's there because parents, on the whole, okay, there are bad parents, but generally, parents bring up the child, not the other way about. So if there is anybody who can offer any advice that we haven't already had in God's earth, please, please help us. Because this has gone on too long. And we need help.